Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 2nd December 2023, brought to you by Ganesh IS Academy. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. So mentioned here are the list of articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slides. So have a look at it. Okay, let's get into the analysis of each and every article one by one. Loss and Damage Fund approved at Conference of Party 28. Why this is a major step forward? So the news is related to the recent decision by the countries those who are participating in the Conference of Party 28, which is being right now held in Dubai. What they have said is that, or what they have finalized is that they are going to operationalize the loss and damage fund which was created in the Conference of Party 27, which was held in Egypt. So this is what the news is about. And under prelims, it is related to general issues on environmental ecology. Similarly, under mains, it is related to GS paper 3, environment conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, and environmental impact assessment. Okay, let's get into the analysis of the news. As I said, the countries have agreed to operationalize the loss and damage fund to help the developing nation to recover from the climate disaster. And as a part of the initiative or the decision, what the global countries have committed is that nearly $400 million will be channelized to the fund initially. And it was, as I said, the announcement for creation of loss and damage fund was made in Egypt, Conference of Party 27. But during that time, no country has pledged any amount to be channelized in the fund. This is what the news is about. Okay, let's look into what is this loss and damage fund is about. See, the loss and damage fund is meant to provide financial assistance to developing countries which is suffering because of the climate related disasters like floods, which has happened like in the case of Pakistan last year, and then extreme weather related events and its related impact in the developing countries. While the climate change framework at the international arena has designed in a way which has made the developed country to be responsible for the climate related disaster that is happening now, because they are the major contributor for the greenhouse gas emission historically. And this is what it is about. And this loss and damage fund which has been created will be administered by the World Bank. World Bank will be acting as trustee for the fund. Initially, the developing countries as well as the small island state has opposed the creation of the World Bank as the trustee for the loss and damage fund, because what the developing countries has said is that with regards to the opposition for making the World Bank as the trustee is, see, the World Bank is the instrument for the developed countries. So if they are going to act as the World Bank is going to act as trustee for the loss and damage fund, means indirectly it is the developed countries that are going to control the loss and damage fund. This is what the initial opposition being made by the developing countries for the World Bank as the trustee for loss and damage fund. But after it has been reversed, right now a consensus decision has been made. Thereafter, it is World Bank only will be going to act as the trustee for loss and damage fund. And this is what the news is about. And there is another thing. According to the recent data, what it has been said is that nearly $1.5 trillion of economic losses have been happened in 2024 with relation to the climate related disasters. This is what the thing is about. And then this loss and damages is classified into two types. One is from the economic perspective, like in the case of what is the damage the climate related disaster has created to the infrastructure, and how many of them have lost their jobs, and what is the GDP losses or the reduction in production happened in an economy because of the economic disaster, climate disaster. Such kind of thing which has been calculated because of the climate related disaster is called as will come under a subtype of economic losses. And there is another subcomponent called as non-economic losses, so which will also be covered under the loss and damages. So the non-economic losses is like in the case of losing the community for the climate related disaster, and then the internal migration that has happened because of the climate related disaster. These are all the things which comes under the non-economic losses, and these two losses will be covered under the loss and damage fund. And how much that damage have been caused by the industry, the industrialization is, see, the industrial era started in 1850. So this 1850 is considered as the year where the disruption for the earth natural mechanism has begun to happen because of the rise of the industrial revolution. And the countries like US, UK and other European countries are responsible for nearly 50% of all the historical emission. And along with them, countries like Russia, Canada, Japan and Australia, which were later industrialized, they all combined, they contribute a percentage of 65% out of the overall historical emissions. So we could able to see that nearly 2/3 of the emissions, historical emission, have been contributed by the developed countries. And in that, and in terms of India, India is responsible for contributing only 3% of historical emission, and China, which is considered as the biggest emitter in right now globally, they have contributed only 11% of the historical emission. So this is what the condition with regards to the emission that has been contributed by the countries. And the greenhouse gases includes, so it is very important from the perspective of prelims: methane, nitrous oxide, water vapor as well as carbon dioxide. These are all the things which comes under greenhouse gases, and in that carbon dioxide is responsible for the most of the global heating, and then the carbon particles have been released is extremely responsible for the extreme weather event that is happening in the global arena. And how much loss and damage the world is right now facing is, see, there is no agreed quantifiable measurement or the scaling to measure the loss and damage that has happened because of the global climate related disaster. And how big the fund and how will it operate, the loss and damage fund is, see, out of the $400 million, the $100 million will be given by the European Union, and then the UAE has given the $100 million, and then European Union has promised about $250 million, and then US will be giving nearly $17.5 million, and then Japan will be giving $10 million. So from this result we could able to see that the US, which is responsible for the historical emission, is contributing very meager amount. So this is what the thing with relation to the analysis of the recent finalization of operationalizing the loss and damage fund is about. And what need to be studied further is, we should know about what is United Nations Framework for Convention on Climate Change and its historical aspect. Secondly, we should also be aware of what is G20 climate action deal is about, which was concluded recently. Thirdly, we should also be aware of IPCC. These are and the report brought out by the IPCC. These are all the things which we need to be further aware of. And with this, we have reached the end of this topic. Oil price stabilize after underwhelming OPEC plus cuts, and Brazil is going to join the group. So this is what the news is about. See, the recently OPEC plus country has made a cut in the global oil production, but this oil cut is very meager, so that it will not have any kind of impact on the global oil price. And along with it, the Brazil will be joining the OPEC plus country in January 2024. So this is what the news is about. So under prelims, it is related to economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it is related to GS paper 3, economic and development, under a subtopic called Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. Okay, let's move on to the further analysis of the news. As I said, cuts in the oil production by the OPEC plus won't have any kind of impact on the international crude oil prices, and Brazil is going to join the OPEC plus country, and even if they are going to join also, they won't be participating in the coordinated output caps committee. That is the committee or the group which is responsible for capping the output of the crude oil. And let's have a look into what is this OPEC as well as OPEC plus is about. OPEC is the permanent organization of the oil exporting countries, and it will enable to coordinate and unify the petroleum policies of its member country, and it was established in 1960 by 5 founding members like Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and then Venezuela. Currently it has 13 members, and Vienna, that is a city in Austria, is acting as the headquarters for the OPEC organization. Okay, let's look into the OPEC plus. It is a group of 23 countries, and among the 23 countries, 3 are the OPEC countries which is based on the Middle East region, and other 10 members like in the case of Russia, Venezuela and other countries which are oil producing but they are not part of the OPEC countries, and their aim is to work together by adjusting the crude oil production to bring the stability to the oil market. So this is what the OPEC plus is about, and what impact it will have. The price rise, if the price rise this time it is meager. If it is going to be very substantial amount of price rise that is going to happen because of the crude oil production cut, means what impact will it have in India is it will lead to higher import bills, and it could lead to inflation. Secondly, it will be leading to the current account widening of current account deficit, which in turn will reduces the rupee value. Thirdly, as I said, it will be weakening the Indian rupee because of the depreciation, and fourthly, it will be decreasing the global investment in India because of the weakening of rupee and its related chain of negative impact on the economy. And then it will act as, it will complex the monetary policy committee's decision to fix the interest rate because of the volatile or the agile situation that will be prevailing because of the increased oil price in global arena. So this is what the impact it will have on India. So what need to be studied further is, we should know about the Middle East map. Secondly, we should also be aware of what is liquefied natural gas, compressed natural gas, and then about the biofuel policy. These are all the things which we need to study further. And with this, we have reached the end of this topic. Green credits incentive to take positive action. So the news is related to the green credits and its announce and its significance, which has been explained by our Prime Minister at Conference of Party 28. So this is what the news is about, and that is the reason why it has appeared in newspaper. And how the news is related to examination is, under prelims the news is related to general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity and climate change. Similarly, it is related to, under mains it is related to conservation, environmental pollution, degradation and environmental impact assessment. Okay, let's get into the explanation of the news. The Green Credit Program is market-based initiative for different kinds of environment actions, and it is not just carbon emission reduction. It is more than the carbon emission reduction. Like in the case of conserving environment from the perspective of water, from the perspective of waste management, from the perspective of soil improvement. Secondly, such mechanism was previously available at the domestic as well as international level in the name of carbon credit. Such mechanism, which was the carbon credit mechanism, is limited to the reduction of the carbon emission across the industries. But this green credit program uses the same market related mechanism of the carbon credit program, but it is beyond the carbon dioxide emission. And the carbon market are more focused at the, that is the carbon credit program, which is the forerunner or the pioneer of the market mechanism to reduce the carbon dioxide emission. It is more focused on industries as well as corporation, but the green credit program, along with the industries and corporation, it will be benefiting the individuals as well as the communities as well. So this is what the difference between the green credit program and then the carbon credit program is about. And then we look into further information about the green credit program. What it is. It is the Indian Council of Forest Research and Education will be administering the program, and the green credit registry, which will help the tracking as well as the managing of the earned credits. And there are certain concerns as well as significance with relation to the green credit program is there. What it is, we will look into. First, it has a potential risk of greenwashing. That it has potential of the corporates engaging in the manipulating of the data relation to their green technologies or the green adaptation that they are implementing in their own organization. Secondly, the monitoring as well as the fraud prevention is difficult in the green credit program because of the lack of consensus in the monitoring mechanism. Like in the case of the standards that has been fixed to monitor these kind of programs doesn't have any doesn't have consensus from all the stakeholders, and there are certain lacunae in the standards that has been fixed for monitoring as well as fraud prevention, and then it will be overlapping with the carbon credits program, which is being implemented along with the green credits program. And then there is challenge in creating a uniform credit values across the different geographical region. So this is what the concern, and the significance is that, as I said, it will be benefiting the individuals as well as the communities as well, apart from the industries as well as corporations. So these are all the concerns as well as significance the green credit program will be having. So what need to be studied further is, we should be aware of what is carbon tax and what is the joint coordination committee, and then the historical aspect of United Nations framework for convention on climate change. So these are all the other areas which we need to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Factory production rises in November as price ease, demand strengthens, purchasing managers index. So factories production has risen because of the easing in the price. Even though the inflation rate is high, it is lower when compared to the previous month, and the demand has got strengthened. This is what the data that has been brought out by purchase managers index. Okay, let's move on to the syllabus. How the news is related to examination. Under prelims, it is related to economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it is related to Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. And under explanation, India's manufacturing sectors has posed the robust performance because of the, as I said, easing of prices and also strengthening of demand because of the easing of prices as well as the pickup in the production, which in turn is leading to increased employment as well as the related consumption. And the PMI index value has been set at 56, which is higher than the 55 which is recorded in the previous month, and there was substantial easing of price pressure. This is what the data that has been brought out by the Purchase Managers Index. And let's look into the details of this index and methodology for the calculation, and then the significance of this index. First is, it is the economic indicator which is derived after monthly survey of different companies. Secondly, it measures the activities at the purchasing or the input stage itself. But in the case of IIP index, the values will be calculated after the production stage, but here the values will be calculated at the input stage itself. And there are two types of PMI index. One is manufacturing PMI index and another is service PMI index, and it does not capture the informal sector. This is another lacuna index, and then it is being released by S&P Global. And the methodology for calculating the PMI index is, so the PMI is derived from a series of qualitative questions, and the questions are related to 5 key variables, and then the weightage are allocated according to the weights of the variables. Like in the case of 30% of weightage have been given to new orders, 25% have been given to output, 20% have been given to employment related question, and then suppliers delivery times is being given 15%, and stocks of items purchased have been given 10% of values. And what is the significance of PMI index is, it is the leading indicator of economic activity. Secondly, the central bank of many countries will be using the index, and because to form the policy rates in their own economy. Thirdly, it gives the indication for the corporate earnings, and which in turn will enable the investors to make the decision related to the investment in the economy. Finally, a good reading of the index will act as the indicator for the healthy economic development or growth, and it will act as the attracting feature for the economy. These are all the significance of the PMI, and this data will also be used by government agencies to form their own policies. So this is what the significance it holds. And what are the things which we need to be further aware of is, we should be aware of what is IIP index and what are all the different broad categories where the products have been calculated under the index, and what is the weightage that has been given to the core sector industries. Secondly, we should also be aware of Central Statistical Office. Thirdly, we should be aware of what is GDP, how it has been calculated, and the things that is related to GDP. Fourthly, PLFS, that is the Periodic Labor Force Survey. Who brings over the Periodic Labor Force surveys, and what is the frequency of the release of the survey, and the data that has been calculated under the surveys. So these are all the things that we need to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Okay, let's move on to prelims practice question. So mentioned here is the today's practice question. Those students, those who are watching the session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. And with this, we have reached the end of today's session. Please do like, comment, share as well as subscribe Ganesh IAS Academy, so that you will be receiving the daily notification with relation to the current affairs session and any other important session that will be brought to you in the future by Ganesh IAS Academy. Thank you.